Welcome to the Andy Ruther Show. Here is your host, Andy Ruther.
Welcome to another episode of the Andy Ruther Show. That is me, Andrew Thomas Ruther. Born November 26, 1981. In case you guys were wondering. I'll be 43 years old in November. 43! Man, getting old. Getting old sucks. It doesn't really suck, but you definitely look mortality in the eye when you get older. I didn't really start thinking about that probably till 40. Probably when my parents died, I started thinking about it. You suddenly are like, hey, I'm not going to be here forever. But yeah, 43 in November. I was born on Thanksgiving. So my birthday always is around Thanksgiving. Sometimes it's on Thanksgiving, which is kind of fun. Kind of nice to be around a holiday. I would hate to be on a holiday. That would suck. I always feel bad for somebody who's born on Christmas or Halloween. Isla was almost born on Valentine's Day, and I'm so glad she wasn't. So she's February 15th. Brittany really wanted her to be on Valentine's Day, a Valentine's Day baby. But then that sucks because you're sharing the holiday. You're sharing it with something else. You don't just get your own day. You got to share it with Valentine's Day. That's what I always said. It'd be great if she was not born on Valentine's Day because why should she share it? Now she gets Valentine's Day candy, Valentine's Day love, probably Valentine's Day gifts, and then she also gets stuff for her birthday the next day. It's like being born on Christmas. That would suck. That would absolutely suck. Do you get double the gifts? I don't know. What's the protocol? Now with me, Thanksgiving, it's great because you get turkey, cake, presents. Every few years, I get those together. So that works out. But dudes, you know I'm a dude. Dudes, we don't really care about birthdays, do we? You're sus. If you're a dude who cares about your birthday, you're suspect. You're totally sus. You really are. Grown ass men caring about their birthdays. I don't trust you. It's like my dad used to always say, to quote the late, great Walt Ruther, it's just another day. Or my dad would say, I had one last year. It's just another birthday. Father's Day was last year. My birthday was last year. My dad did not care about either of those things. He never cared about birthdays and Father's Day. I think as a guy, you don't because you're just worried about everything else. You're trying to make some money, trying to provide for your family. Everything else is on your mind but your birthday. Whereas women, you guys turn it into a whole thing. You're thinking about your birthday forever. It's a birthday week. It's a birthday month. It's a whole extravaganza. Not dudes. We're just like, yep, I was born on this day and we celebrating. But yeah, I'm inching to those near 40s. Puts a little things in perspective. Late bloomer over here. I definitely feel that. Having the first kid at 41 makes me a little late bloomer, but that's okay. That's all right. I like it. I like where I'm at. I'm happy. I'm in the neighborhood. I'm in the HOA. I'm in the reserve of Turpin. And I got a little update about that for the record. We had a nice little update on Gay Greg last weekend, or last episode, I should say. So you guys reached out to me, which I knew you would. You guys did some more digging. Apparently, he is a registered nurse. That has been verified. Still not sure how Brittany and I were looking that up because it was not showing up when we were looking it up at home. I don't see anything about an NP, a nurse practitioner. So it seems we might have taken some liberties with that status that he told me. I don't see that. I don't see a nurse practitioner. And it's still very confusing. I'm just putting it out there, guys. It's very, very, very confusing. I've never seen him in scrubs. Not once. I've never seen him in scrubs. Every other nurse I know, when they come home from work, they're in scrubs. He's always in a tie and a button down. What nurse is wearing the button down and the tie and the slacks? He looks like he's going to the office. He dresses how my dad would dress when he was going downtown for his job as a stockbroker. That's how he dresses. Now, we're seeing some things that says he's a nurse. We're seeing some things that says he's not a nurse. I don't know. You decide. Just putting it out there. And my neighbor now tells me he told her he was an administrative assistant, or he worked in administration, sorry, at like a healthcare center or a nursing home or something. So we got a lot of conflicting reports about my boy Greg. Is he a nurse? Isn't he a nurse? Is he a nurse practitioner? Is he not a nurse practitioner? Does he work in the administrative side? I don't know. There's a lot that's not adding up. That's all I'm saying. But I ran into him today. And no lie, the first thing he says to me, I'm walking out with Roscoe. He's walking with his dog. He's doing the corner because, I'm in the cul-de-sac. So he's doing the loop. He's about to hit my house. First thing he says to me, it's about 9 a.m. Verbatim, not hi, not hello, not good morning. First thing he says to me is, do you own a gun? Do you own a gun? And my first thought was, oh, he's going to tell me to kill myself because he's been listening to the Andy Ruther show. That's what I thought. He's been listening. He hates me. He's going to tell me to kill myself. No, it's not what he said. I said, I don't own a gun. Why? I guess he found some shell casings. So now we have another little mystery here at the Reserve of Turpin. He found some shell casings by the sidewalk in front of my lawn. And he said he took them to an expert. So now he's doing his recon. What's happening here? What is happening here? I'm doing my recon on him, or you guys are helping me. And now he's doing recon on some shell casings that are outside my property. He said, I took him to somebody who confirmed they're from a gun, which I don't know why you would need somebody to confirm that. Apparently he didn't know what a gun is. So now I need to know, who's dropping shell casings in front of my house? I'm a little concerned, right? I live in a nice little neighborhood. Is somebody trying to hide a crime? Did the house up the street, 2 doors up, did they actually murder somebody? Is that why those mattresses were covered in blood? And they heard the podcast and now they're trying to frame me? I don't know. If I see a forensics team outside my house, then I'm worried. I'm a little worried. By the way, his wife, Gay Greg's wife, called the HOA about the bloody mattresses, he told me. He called the HOA. I would have loved to have heard that conversation. How did that play out? Hi, yeah, I'd like to complain about one of my neighbors. Okay, so did they not take in their garbage cans? They put signs in front of the yard, the political signs that we don't allow? No, they have bloody mattresses for garbage. Like, how does that play out? I said, Greg, what did they do? He goes, they didn't do anything. I go, you think? Of course. Like, what can they do? They put out bloody, gross mattresses for the garbage. I don't know what the HOA does for that. The HOA is pretty worthless. I think I need to get on the board. I don't trust the HOA. I just don't. I see enough things. I don't trust them. I don't trust them with our money. You know what they did? I'm going to pull this up. And this is why I don't trust them. First of all, I had a neighbor up the street tell me somebody on the HOA board way before I moved here stole money. I don't know if that's true. I don't have a confirmation of that, but a neighbor told me somebody on the HOA board stole about 10 G's. This is why I don't trust them. All the announcements that the HOA does and their minutes and the stuff that they have to post, like when they have meetings, they have to post minutes, they have to post what it does. When they have a financial report, they have to post it. In the past, they just emailed it to you. Now they put it in an app called Town Square. So if you want to view any important information from our HOA, the Reserve of Turpin HOA, you have to go into this app, Town Square. This is why it's suspect to me. Half of my homeowners association, half of my neighborhood are townhouses and condos where a lot of old people live. Old people don't know how to use apps. So, what better way to hide the financial reports? What better way to hide embezzling money, stealing from all these old people than putting it on an app? You ever seen an old person try to get on an app? It'd be like me trying to fly a plane. If you just put me in the cockpit, I'd say, well, what am I doing here? I don't know. I don't know what to do. There's a bunch of buttons. I'm just pushing this. This looks like the thing that might steer the plane. I don't know. That's how an old person is when you hand them an iPhone, when you hand them this little thing and you say, hey, hop on TikTok. They're going to look at you like you're speaking Mandarin. So that's why I'm suspect. I think it's a little suspect. It's a little sketchy. It's shady. You have half of the people, and the people who actually care are the old people. The people in the single family homes, most of them aren't like me. Most of them don't care. They don't want to see the numbers. They pay their $65 a month. That's all we pay. It's not much. You're basically paying that for the community pool, for the community tennis court, the community basketball hoop, the clubhouse that's all up there, which is nothing, right? I'll gladly pay $65 a month for that. It's great. Even just for the pool. To have a pool that I have access to 4 months a year, walk right up the street, I gladly pay $65 a month for that. But the old people, they pay a lot more because the HOA includes repairs to their decks, to their houses, to their roofing, all those things. They pay a lot. They probably pay $400 a month. What better way to embezzle money, to hide money, than put it on an app called Town Square? Old people don't know how to use that. And I'm not seeing the money lately. I'm not seeing how much you spent on salt removal during the snow season because there wasn't much snow. I'm just saying, I might have to join the HOA board. Shake things up a little. I would bring down the average age. I'll tell you that much. No one, talk about age. No one is below 50 on that board. No one. Not a chance in hell. I went to a meeting once. Very, very suspect. You're not even allowed to raise your hand with questions. They say you have to come early for questions. They just do their thing. I'm telling you, it doesn't add up, people. That might be my next move. My next move into full-time suburban dad is to join the HOA board. Little do they know what they're getting. I'll be telling everything on this show what happens on the HOA board. I don't trust it. The last update is July 3rd. It's about Adult Swim. Beginning July 8th, the Reserve of Turpin swimming pool will be open from 9 to 10 a.m. for Adult Swim. Regular pool hours will continue from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. This is what I'm saying. That's not I want to see the numbers. I don't care about Adult Swim at the pool. I want to see the numbers. You guys probably don't care about this, but I do. This is my life, guys. This is my life, and I chose it. You know how Tupac had Thug Life tattooed across his chest? Mine's either going to say Dad Life or HOA Life. Have you guys seen this show, Worst Roommate Ever? Have you guys seen this? Anybody seen this? It's on Netflix. The second season came out like a couple months ago. Basically, it just highlights wild stories with like the worst roommate ever. And Brittany had it on. It's kind of background noise. She's the queen of background noise. She just puts something on and plays with her phone. She's not like me. When I put something on, I'm gonna watch it. Like my phone is down for the most part. I am intent on watching it. I'm not a big background noise guy. Never have been, never will. Mostly sports, maybe a sports game on in the background. But the truth is, I don't really put on TV if I don't want to watch it. I'm not a big background noise guy, but she is. So she had on Worst Roommate Ever, and I'm watching this episode about these two friends. They were roommates, and the other friend was literally trying to kill her roommate slash friend to raise her kid. It was kind of wild. Like slowly kill her. She was injecting her with stuff. She didn't know. She kept going to the hospital. She kept having recurring health problems because this person was Googling basically how to kill somebody without them knowing. But I didn't watch it closely enough because, again, it's background noise, right? But it got me thinking about a wild roommate story that I've actually never, ever shared before that I think is pretty insane that I thought I would share here. I don't think I've ever shared this. I don't think I ever shared this on Dirty Sports. I know I haven't. On the Dent Report, on any other podcast I've done. I have a pretty interesting roommate story, a long one. I hope I've never shared this. Regardless, if I did, I apologize. You might hear it again. So I had a terrible roommate slash friendship go completely south when I was in Los Angeles in my old apartment in Venice Beach in the formerly Smut Studio on Mildred Avenue, on Pacific Avenue, on Mildred Avenue, whatever, in Venice. Anyway, I want to tell you guys this story because I was thinking about this with this show, Worst Roommate Ever. Now, he wasn't trying to kill me. And it's not one of those because if you watch that show, it's the extreme, but it's pretty wild how this all played out, especially with the laws in California. So I had this friend that I met when I was working at the Oceana Hotel in about 2008, 2007. Anyway, I got that job. I worked there for 3 years. I worked all around the hotel from a bellhop to a waiter to room service to bartender, small boutique hotel. And I became good friends with one of the front desk workers. And he was an overnight worker. He did the graveyard shift from like 11 to 7 a.m. And we became good friends and we were polar opposites. Here I am, a frat boy that came from the suburbs of Cincinnati. He was a black dude who came from a real rough area, Baltimore. I'm 5'9", 5'10", 170 pounds. He's like 6'4", 230, 240 pounds. We couldn't be more different, right? But we bonded over stupid comedy, as in we both liked stupid comedies and stuff like that. And we became buddies over the years. So again, we were complete opposites. So fast forward to 2012, he's living in Inglewood and I'm living in my spot in Venice Beach. And at the time, I was really struggling. I was working the kids camp and I was working at Cabo Cantina, the front door. I was a doorman. I was working basically 7 days a week. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I've been doing comedy, but I'm 5 years in. Anyway, I'm at that place in my life. And we both wanted to save money. So he said to me, "Hey man, why don't I just start crashing on your couch for like 5 or 6 months? Split the rent. I can get out of my place in Inglewood." He didn't own anything. He literally owned nothing. He had like a TV and a computer. He's like, "I'll crash on your couch. We can split rent, save us money. You're working all the time anyway, and we'll make it work. And I thought, yeah, perfect. Right? Two buddies. At this point, I'd known him 5 years. And the truth was, he had crashed at my place for a few weeks before when he needed a place. So this wasn't the first time. He'd crashed before. I thought it's a great setup. It'll cut my rent in half. Little did I know what was happening. So he comes, I can tell you when he came. He came in like April of 2012. Again, at this point, I'm working Monday through Friday at a kids' beach camp. And on Saturday and Sunday, I'm working at a bar, just the front door. So I'm basically working 7 days a week. And I did that all summer. I don't really know if I had any off days, maybe a couple here and there. So I'm not even really at the apartment. So everything's going fine. You know, we're roommates. He's crashing on the couch. Mind you, I'm in a tiny, tiny apartment. 390 square feet was that apartment. It's very, very small. But we made it work, and I wasn't ever there. And he liked to cook, and he was a great cook, and everything was fine. First few months, first April, May, they go fine. He's paying his rent. Again, what I'm doing is technically illegal. I mean, technically, I can't have somebody living there via my lease agreement, but whatever. No big deal. You can have somebody living on your couch. So June comes around and he's not really working, just so you know, during this time. He's working a graveyard shift a couple nights a week at a hotel and maybe doing some movie and TV extra work, but he's not really working, not working much. So he doesn't pay rent in June. And I'm just like, okay, he'll get it to me end of June, whatever. I'm paying my rent. I don't think much of it. We've been good friends. We've never had issues. So July rolls around and finally I have a night where I just want to go out. I hadn't gone out in a long time. I hadn't partied. I hadn't really been drinking. I just had been working. So the bar I work at, I decide, hey, I'm going to come back tonight and have a few. Oh, this is why. Now I remember. I met a couple girls working there because, I'd meet girls all the time. And they said, why don't you come back when you're off your shift and come back and why don't you hang out and have some drinks with us? So I meet a couple girls. I go home, change out of my clothes, shower, head back up. It's right up the street for me. Walk right back. And I drink with these girls basically all night. Close down the bar. Just me and these couple girls. Now he's working the graveyard shift. So he works until 7 a.m. So the girls come back to my apartment and we're still drinking, we're still partying real late. And I'm talking like 4 or 5 a.m. And at this point, one of the girls I could tell wanted to hook up with me. So her friend leaves, she stays, whatever. We do our thing, we hook up. We get maybe a couple hours of sleep, and I realize, shit, he's going to be coming home. It's like 7 a.m. I'm still drunk because we've been drinking till about 4 or 5 a.m. I text him, hey, man, you mind just going to the grocery store after work? Let me get this girl out of here first. You mind killing like an hour? Kill like an hour. He says, no, I'm coming home. Now, he could be really, really selfish, but never was like that to me. And I thought, coming home, the nerve of you. He also had my car, mind you. I was nice enough to let him drive my car. He worked not even 2 miles away, but I'd let him drive my car to work because I didn't need it at night. So he says no. I'm straight up with him. I got a girl. I've been partying all night. She's literally lying next to me, dude. I got to get her out of here. I don't want you coming in. She got to put clothes on. She got to get out of here. He says no. So just a few minutes later, I see him pull in the parking lot. I had a 2-story parking garage. The top part was uncovered. And I see him park in my spot. She's still asleep. And I'm like, you got to go. You got to go. So I see him park. I see him walking. I don't have clothes on really. She doesn't have clothes on. I go meet him in the hallway. I said, dude, what is your problem? And he's like, what is your problem? I'm coming home. I'm tired. I've worked an 8-hour shift. I need to sleep. I said, dude, I got a girl in there. Give me a few minutes. He says, I don't care. And he just walks right in. And he walks right in the apartment. And again, I'm in a studio apartment, 390 square feet. He sees her putting her clothes on. She's like, what the hell? And at this point, I snap on him. I'm still drunk. And I'm in his face saying, what's your problem? What's wrong with you? This and that. She leaves and I'm furious and I'm still intoxicated. So I'm saying a lot of stuff. I'm talking a lot of trash. I bring up rent. I'm like, dude, you're an asshole. By the way, you owe me June rent and you owe me July. Because at this point, it's the first week of July. You owe me the last 2 months rent. I said, in fact, just get out. Just get out of my apartment. You're gone. Get out of here. I don't want to deal with you. He says, no, I'm not leaving. Like, what do you mean you're not leaving? He's like, I'm not leaving. And I know the law. I can stay here. I've been here. I've had mail delivered here more than 30 days to my name at this address. I have squatter's rights. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh my God, this is not good because he probably does know the law. So we start getting into it and I'm getting in his face. And I'm not exaggerating, guys. He could literally snap me, but I'm in his face. I'm literally poking his chest. He looked like Ray Lewis, just chiseled linebacker. Dude was insane on his workouts, insane on what he ate. He put all his effort into that, didn't really care much about effort into work or into pursuing his dreams of a Hollywood writer. That's what he was really out there to do. All those things. And he's saying he's not leaving. I know the law. You can't kick me out. And then I said, I'm going to call the cops. And he's like, you should call the cops. They're not going to do anything. So at this point, I don't know what to do. He literally goes and just lays on my couch and goes to sleep. And I had to go to work probably at like 1 or 2 that afternoon. And I'm still tired and I'm still drunk. So I just hop in my bed and then I go to sleep. Oh, yeah. I left out an important detail. Sorry. I'm trying to remember all this. When I was in his face, I said a lot of things. And I said, because I have thought this maybe, I said, you're just mad that I brought a girl home because I think you secretly have a crush on me. Because I started to think that after a couple months together. I wasn't sure if he was down low gay. That's the truth. Because he never talked about girls ever, ever. Now, I guess I'm jumping to conclusions to think, hey, if you don't talk about girls, you're gay. But I just found it odd. He never, ever, ever talked about girls. So I call him out and I say that. I was like, you're just mad I brought a girl home because you got a crush on me, dude. And it's not like we were ever naked in front of each other because we weren't. But I just said that because I wasn't sure. So it all came out, right? I'm just going off on him. Dude, you're secretly gay. You got a crush on me. That's why you're mad. He's saying, I'm not going to leave, this and that. You don't know the law, and I got squatters' rights, and you're stuck. You're stuck with me. So I go to work that day. I'm talking to some of the girls at work about it, some of the waitresses. And the one's like, yeah, dude, you got a problem. Have you ever looked into California law? Do you know how left leaning, how liberal leaning these laws are for squatters? She's like, dude, you got a serious problem. If he's been there like 30 or more days, even though you're on the lease and he's not on the lease, and he's had mail delivered, you got a serious problem, which I knew, I didn't know at the time, but now I know. You hear all these stories. Let me play this one. This is kind of wild. This is one I saw on Reddit of someone who used this woman's house for Airbnb and refuses to leave. Now, there's a lot of swear words and they bleep it. So it might be tougher to understand. But basically, this woman refuses to leave the house that she Airbnb'd, that she stayed at because of squatters' rights. And you'll hear this woman explain, I can't call the cops. I can't do anything.
Don't trust no Airbnbs. Okay? There go, y'all. Straight to the kitchen. I ain't going nowhere. So deal with it. She did.
So this is real similar to the situation I was in, where she says, I ain't going nowhere, so deal with it. That's what he was saying to me. I'm not going anywhere. This woman's walking right to the kitchen. This is how Gerard was. That was his name, Gerard. This is how he was. He's like, I'm not going nowhere. I know the law. And then it got a little racial too, because he was like, I grew up in the hood. You don't know about this shit, white boy. Then it got racial. Like, I know the laws. I grew up dirt poor. We used to have to turn on our oven to help heat the house in the winter. And he's throwing all this stuff my way. Like, you grew up privileged, this and that. You don't know the laws. I'm going to use it to my advantage. Just like this video.
You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I've been trying to do the right way. I done went down there and got the all the paperwork that I need to do to get her ass evicted out my house, whatever. But that shit is a process. I have to go through protocols and all the other stupid legal blah bull.
So this woman's complaining again. Lots of bleeps. Sorry if you can't understand. It's easier if you watch the video. If you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, she's going through all the legal rigmarole, which is what you have to do. To get a squatter out, you have to file the paperwork. You have to go the legal route. I mean, it sounds ridiculous because it is. But this is how these states have written these laws in. It's insane.
And then I just got the police just left my house, and I'm like, get this out my house. And like, oh, she's a tenant now. She's a tenant.
So she called the cops. The cops are saying she's a tenant. This is how it works. That's why he was telling me, call the cops. Call the cops. They're not going to do anything. But we're going to get to that in a minute. I'll tell you guys how it ended up playing out with me.
You and the police, okay? My door. That's all I know. Your door? This is my house. How about you get the out of my house? How about that's what you do? How about you get the out of my house? How about you get the out of my house?
I mean, this is wild. So she's basically set up shop in a bedroom in this woman's house. The cops can't do anything. She's got to go through this legal route. It's so ridiculous. I was in that same situation, except in a studio apartment. So I come home and we don't talk. We're in a 390 square foot box and we don't talk. And he's refusing to leave. So now I call my friend who's a lawyer. And she says the same thing. She goes, you're not in a good situation, man. Because squatters' rights and all this, he can claim he's a resident and he's a tenant, blah, blah, blah. She's like, you're not in a good situation. So I'm thinking, how the hell do I get Gerard out of my apartment and out of my life? And one more note I forgot to mention. When we got into it that morning, I'll never forget. I just remember what I said to him. Another very important piece. I said, are you willing to throw a close 5-year friendship out the window because I brought a girl home and it might have inconvenienced you a little bit? And he looked at me dead straight in the eye and said, yeah. This is somebody I used to hang out with all the time, by the way, all the time. We'd see movies, we'd get food. So that's why I was like, yo, dude, you got a crush on me? I don't know what the deal is. Even though I've dated girls, you've known I've dated girls, all the whole 9 yards. He said he was willing to throw all that out the window because a minor inconvenience, like killing an hour after work with my car. So this is where I'm at. I don't know how to get him out. And I learned this pretty quickly. The laws are in his favor. So you got to go guerrilla warfare. So what I did is, again, this is 2012. Technology is not as good. What I did was before work every single day for the next week, and I would get up at 5:30 because I had to pick up stuff around 6:30 for the kids' camp. I had to set it up. I was getting up real early, 5:30. I would take the internet router and I would take the knobs from the oven and I would throw them in my bag every morning while he was sleeping, and I'd go to work. Because all he did all day was watch Netflix and cook. And this is before you could just steal a hotspot from your phone, which, by the way, he didn't even have. His phone was so basic. He was that type of person. His car got repossessed because he stopped making payments on his car. And his phone didn't even have internet. 2012, you couldn't steal a hotspot on your computer. I don't think back then. Maybe you could, but it didn't matter. He didn't have a phone. He didn't have an iPhone with internet. It was literally a call and text phone. So in my head, if I take the internet away, he doesn't have access to the internet. And if I take the knobs away from the oven and the stove, he can't cook. And I did that for a week, every single day. We were not talking. So even when I come home, if he would be there, we were not talking. I was trying to figure out what to do. He was right in the room with me, that tiny little shoebox apartment. He didn't have internet and he didn't have a way to cook. So I was literally trying to smoke him out. And he started going to the library. There was a local library down the street in Venice. I knew he started going to it, but that library is just full of homeless people. Homeless people are waiting in line to get on the computer, to use the internet, to check their email, which is hilarious. I don't know why you'd need to check an email if you're homeless, but I knew he started to do that. That was his desperate act of going to the local library to be able to have access to the internet. So this goes on for like a week. And then the next weekend, I realized when I was at work for my bar job, the mail key was gone. He took the mail key off the keychain while I was in the shower. He takes that off. So I'm like, okay, the mail key is gone. So when I get off work, I confront him on it in the apartment. I said, the mail key's gone. Give me back the mail key. He says, no, I'm not giving you back the mail key. I don't trust you. You're going to withhold my mail. Because he would occasionally get checks for his extra acting work, like very tiny residual checks here and there. And I said, I'm not going to withhold your mail. And by the way, I didn't. I'm not stupid. I might not know squatters' rights laws. I do know it's a federal crime to withhold mail. So I'm not withholding your mail. And he says, I don't trust you. I said, I'm calling the cops. He said, no, you won't. You're not going to call the cops. And since he did the race thing, I threw it back in his face a week later. I said, I'm going to call the cops. And I said, who do you think they're going to believe? LA cops. LAPD with a terrible track record with racial issues. I go, who do you think they're going to leave? The little white boy or the 6'4" black dude who looks like an inside linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens? Who do you think they're going to believe? He goes, you ain't calling the cops. And I walked outside and I called the cops. And I explained every single thing. And then the cops show up and we talk for a bit. It's two cops. And we talk for a bit and I explain how everything's going down. And the cops told me the exact same thing they told this woman in the video. They go, we cannot kick him out. He has squatters' rights as a tenant in your apartment. We cannot kick him out. Now the cop says, who's on the lease? I said, I'm on the lease. He goes, what we can do is we can get the mail key back because his name is not on the lease. We can tell him he's got to give you back the mail key. So the cops go into my apartment. The cops tell me to stay in the hallway. I'll never forget the look on his face when the cops enter. It was 2 cops. It was a Hispanic cop and a black cop. And they enter the apartment and they tell him, "You got to give him the mail key. You're not on the lease." And his mouth about dropped. He didn't think I would call the cops. So he's telling his side of the story. I kept trying to hop in from the hallway. I'd poke my head in the door. It was like a scene out of a sitcom. I'd say, "That's not true. You're lying." Blah, blah, blah. It's going back and forth. Cops are telling me, "Shut up. Stay in the hallway. You stay out of this. We're just talking to him." So the cops say, "Give him the key. We're going to watch you give him the mail key right now." So he gives me the mail key and the cops leave. And I'll never forget this. He goes and he sits back down because at this point, he would use an antenna for any TV. And he sits there for a minute, and I'm standing in the kitchen of our tiny little apartment, and he looks at me and he just says, "Tomorrow, I'm going to go to your apartment manager's office and tell her I've illegally been living here the last 3 months. They're going to kick you out, and you're going to lose your apartment. Fuck you." That's what he told me. So I thought, okay, this will be interesting how this plays out because she's still been getting the checks from me. She's still been getting rent. It's under my name. She might just think he's a lunatic. Who is this guy? But I also knew there's a chance she might say, "Hey, you broke your lease. You can't sublease," even though he wasn't paying rent. "You got to go, Andy." And then we're both out of a spot, right? He's just trying to burn the whole thing down. So I go to work the next day, the kids camp, a long day at the beach, 8 hours in the sun. I come home. Nothing's on my door, no notices, nothing. And he says this to me. He says, "I didn't go to your apartment manager. I thought about this. If you give me the internet again and you start putting the knobs back on the oven and the stovetop and you bring the toaster back." I mean, guys, I was just taking random shit. I was literally taking anything that he might use. I know it sounds hilarious, and just putting it in my car. He goes, "If you give me all those things back, I'll be out of here in 2 weeks." I said, 2 weeks? He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But I'm not paying you a penny." I said, "Okay." Because at this point, I just knew I had no leverage. The only leverage I had was taking the Wi-Fi, taking the access to cook. That was the only leverage I had. That's how insane these laws are. So I said, "Okay." And I shook his hand. Now, you might be thinking, "You're crazy, Ruther. He might kill you at night." I didn't think he would. He wasn't a violent person, but I was willing to take that chance. So for the next 2 weeks, no exaggeration, we set a hard date. 2 weeks from whatever that date was, he had to be out of there. So for the next 2 weeks, we didn't talk a single word. I left the Wi-Fi router. I left the knobs on the oven, the knobs on the stovetop. I left the microwave or whatever things I had taken. I left everything. And for 2 weeks, I would get my butt out of bed. I'd go to work. I'd come home. He'd be there watching TV. I wouldn't talk to him. I'd fall asleep. He'd be watching TV. And we do this every day for 2 weeks. Not a single word. I'm not exaggerating. We did not say a single word to each other in a tiny 390 square foot apartment for 2 weeks. It was like neither of us existed to each other. And at the end of that 2 weeks, I came home from work and all his shit was gone. And he put my keys, because he has a spare, right? I had a spare made for him. He put the spare keys, they were sitting on the countertop, and he was gone. His clothes, his TV, his computer, all gone. And I will never forget the sigh of relief I had. I literally sat down just a bit. I might have, who knows? I don't remember this. I don't know if I was a little emotional because I was like, what is going to happen here? And I had the biggest sigh of relief. He was gone. He was out of my life forever. Or so I thought. Or so I thought. So that was a great day for me. Great day for me. So about 3 months later, he gets some mail. I could tell it was a check. Again, it was from Extra Work. He gets like a check here and there. You could just tell it was some sort of work check from doing background extra work on a TV show or on a movie, whatever it was. And I didn't get rid of it because, again, I knew the law. It was sent to this address. I knew the law. We hadn't spoken. He sends me a text. Hey, I know I have some extra work checks there. You better not have gotten rid of them. I'm coming to get them. So, okay. So that week, he came down to my building. There was like extra security on the back street, which was called Mildred, where there was a set of doors with like metal, like the one door, and then there was metal bars, and then there was another set of doors to get into my building because I lived in Venice Beach and there's just so many crazy people. So I met him at the first set of doors. I did not even let him enter the building or the complex. I handed him the mail through the metal doors. It was like a prison scene. And I handed him the mail, and all I said was, "Have a nice life, Gerard." That was it. None of us said anything to each other, and I handed him the mail, and that was it. And that was fall or early winter of 2012. And I've never talked to him again. In fact, I looked him up. Before we did this show. I did a deep dive this morning. Couldn't find anything on him. Nothing. I messaged another buddy from LA who knew him. I said, try to find something on him. I couldn't find anything at all on him, putting in his name. What if he's secretly gay, Greg? They both have names that start with a G. I think they're both gay. Interesting. No, but I haven't talked to him. I mean, it was craziness, guys. I had a guy living that was refusing to leave, and he knew the law, and those are the laws. And that video of the woman refusing to leave an Airbnb, that's true. You put it into Google. You see this stuff. It happens in these states like California. It's absolutely terrifying. And that's what he did. Now, he didn't try to kill me. It's not one of those Netflix worst roommate ever, but it's pretty terrifying. An entire friendship ends all because I bring a girl home? All because I want to decide to drink and I want to party with a girl late one night? All because of that? He just ends our friendship. And I have to go through just 3+ weeks of absolute hell. Thank God I had work to take my mind off it. Thank God. I will never forget that sigh of relief when I walked in my apartment and his stuff was gone. Just the biggest, just load and weight taken off me emotionally. It's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And if you believe in karma, dude's got some bad karma coming his way if he's still alive. Bad karma. So that is my worst roommate ever. If you guys have a bad roommate story, you should hop in and tell me. 859-935-0078. That is the hotline for the Andy Ruther Show. It's on the screen. Once again, 859-935-0078. Or just call about anything. Share your opinion on something. Ask a question. Whatever it is, everything is open on the hotline. 859-935-0078. And we're almost near 100 reviews, I saw. We're real close. We're really close to 100 reviews. So if you want to drop a review, do it on Apple, do it on Spotify, rating/review. And once we get to 100, I'm going to pick someone to win $100 from yours truly. So if you're listening to the show and you haven't left a review and you haven't left a rating, go ahead and do that. And if you really want to help, do both. I think we're at like 94 or 95. So we're very, very close. I know people forget to do it, but just pause it right now. It takes 2 seconds. Please go ahead and do that. All those little things actually help the show and help the algorithm. Well, that's it for me, guys. That pretty much took up the show, but I had to share that. I know I've never shared that before, and it's just a wild roommate story, and it's wild how the laws are, and it's just a reason that you can't live in places or you can't allow those things to happen. It's pretty much terrifying. It sucks. But I'm here. I made it out on the other side. Made me stronger, right? All right, guys, that's our show for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Special shout out to my neighbor Doug, who added to Jay Sizzle's intro and outro. I love these new intros and outros with the animation. They're awesome. Much love to Doug. All right, guys, have a great week. We'll be back next week. Peace.